Welcome to the Bold Moves How Did You Know podcast, a podcast for the naturally curious who want to define their own path. I'm your host, Kristen Rocco, and here I'm sharing bold move stories that propelled my guests from curiosity to action. And in doing so, they've defined a path that is purposeful to them. Through these stories, I hope you'll be inspired to pursue your boldest dreams. Kate Grantham is an independent event producer with 14 years of experience in the client services, sports marketing, and hospitality world. As KIG Events LLC, she contracts with agencies, networks, and leagues to support and manage a lot of different projects throughout the year. You guys are going to know all of these different events that she works on. It is literally the coolest list. She produces the men's NCAA Final Four, Formula One Miami Grand Prix, the Super Bowl, NBA All-Star Weekend, Sundance Film Festival, and the SAG Awards, just to name a few. I could go on and on and on and on, Kate, about the list of cool projects that you're working on as an event producer. Kate, I am so excited to welcome you to the show today. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me, Kristen. I'm super excited to be here and nervous. And thank you. That intro was very kind.
You just have the most awesome resume. I know that you've built up to where you are today. And so I would love for you to tell your own story. Can you share more about yourself and what you consider your boldest move to kick us off in our conversation today?
I grew up in Florida. I've been in Atlanta now for 15 years. I worked in events starting at Turner Broadcasting, which is now Warner Brothers Discovery, and then at Revolution Marketing Agency, and then at Hands On Atlanta. Throughout those companies, kind of is where I got that reverse bucket list of things that I got to work on. And my boldest move was 2 years ago, choosing to go out and do events on my own.
What is a reverse bucket list?
Well, people have like things on their bucket list, like Super Bowl and Final Four. And I get to do those things that weren't on my bucket list, but then it becomes a really cool bucket list. So you're kind of checking it off after you do it.
We named so many cool experiences that you've had, both from, your corporate background doing event production, and now, of course, you're doing it for yourself. And we're going to get into that bold move you made. But what's one experience that has really stuck out to you about what you've done over your career?
One of my favorite things about the events that I do, like weddings never appealed to me. Personal events, I always wanted to do corporate event marketing and how you can elevate a brand through a curated experience, almost subliminally to guests. So some of my favorite events I did back at Turner were where we'd launch a new show and we got to brand the entire event for all these guests from touchdown of the plane to when they leave for that show. So we were doing all these TNT armchair detective type shows, and I would rent autopsy tables as the bar and, do little beakers and science things, forensics for all the meals, and just, fun stuff like that where you can bring the brand and the essence of the show and wow people and make them really have a memory that sticks with them that ties them back to TNT.
I'm getting like Dexter vibes from TV.
Yeah. People are a little, yeah.
So going back to early on, right? As you were even getting into this career path, I mean, how did you discover corporate events as a career path?
I actually went to school at University of Florida and majored in hospitality, tourism, and recreation, which I didn't know was a thing. And it was kind of a combination of a lot of different event kids, like park rangers, facility folks, stadium ops, Disney kids. And then I found this internship at Turner in event marketing, and it was just perfect being able to work across all the networks. CNN News is very different than Cartoon Network, and it was just, I knew it was the right thing to do.
Let's get into your bold move. You talked about very quickly that you went from corporate out on into your own events production company. So Why did you do that? Why do you consider that your boldest move? And what played into your decision on making that bold move?
It's a bold move to me because I've always been a rule follower and someone who
Mm,
likes structure and corporate. And to choose to leave a paying full time stable job to choose to not have health benefits, not know if
yeah.
you have income, not have any work on the horizon is a hugely scary, bold move to make. But I think, like many others in the pandemic, my mindset shifted about how was I
Mm,
spending my time. And then also at the same time, the event world shifted where people weren't as willing to commit to full time employees. So I kind of
mm.
saw that as an opportunity to take on project based work and then fill my time that I wasn't working with what I wanted to do, which is travel and see my loved ones and volunteer in the community and, do what I like when I'm on break.
The circumstances showed this opportunity for more project based work as a freelancer or as your own business owner. But
Exactly.
the COVID ended. I can't even believe it now, but like looking back, right? It's like surreal that that was our life for 2 to 3 years. But it did eventually come to an end, and you could have gone back into corporate, right? That would have been an option. What gave you the confidence to continue sticking with the freelance career that you've designed?
I realized that I had made some really good connections and real relationships.
Mm,
And, this kind of goes into advice for others. Talk to your network, talk to someone who's already doing what you're doing, and
mm,
see if you can put out feelers of if it's an option for you. And I had enough of a cushion to jump that I was like, okay, I got to try this and see
mm.
if I can work less because PTO is just not enough. I want to see the world and I wanted to take the risk and see if there was a way to even potentially make less, but have more time. So it was too appealing to not try.
I love that, especially because you started to talk about how you could grow your confidence by testing it out with other people in your network first. What did those initial conversations look like? I mean, when you reached out to somebody, and this, like going back to what you said, this is advice for people, right? Like if they're interested in exploring not just their own business, but also like inside corporate America or anything else, often talking to other people can really help you firm up your decision making process. What was the nature of those conversations? How did you get them started?
I think it's with, I may be in a very special, specific scenario with events because the relationships that you gain from being in the trenches with people over holidays and weekends, those are just so special and so deep so quickly because you're just spending all this time with folks. So I have a lot of really good friends. And, even if you're in a secure position, you have those trusted allies to speak
Yeah.
with about like what would it look like if I left, like what do you know about this? And then I actually was speaking to some people who are already doing it and just said, where do I even start? Like, do I need an LLC? Do I need an S corp? Like
Yeah.
taxes? And I have a good friend who kept me on the phone for 2 hours, or I kept him on the phone for 2 hours and just walked me through everything, which once you're in this little community,
Yeah.
we all just help each other out. So anyone that wants to do it, give me a call. It's just really having a supportive network and putting out, I'd like to do this. Do you think it's feasible?
The people that you were talking to that were doing what you were doing, what did you ask them about this path
I
specifically?
think what I focused on, because really most jobs come down to income and time. And it was like,
Mm,
what am I looking at here? How do you price yourself? How do you decide how long things are going to take? How do you decide if you take a 9 month contract or 3 weeks, or do you just do on site? Like, what does the landscape even look like? Just getting a sense of
uh-huh.
what this is or what it can be, which was super helpful to just
That
see
is
that there is
helpful.
a breadth of you can do a meeting for one day or you can do a 2 year contract. It's just totally what you want to do.
One of my questions when I was starting out and making this jump from corporate to consulting was, and I think still really is, like, how do you find clients? Did you have that question as well? And like, what advice did you get? And I've recently been in conversation with some people in the bold moves community who are interested in pursuing a consulting career. But yeah, what advice did you get about how do you find clients, or where do you look for clients?
That's so good. I think something that applies to everyone is just keeping in touch with people, which
Yeah.
isn't fake. I love genuinely checking in with people. I made a New Year's resolution in 2012 to, if I was ever thinking about somebody, I would send them a text. This is not a sign to
Mm.
text your ex, everyone, but generally, like, you're
Yeah.
watching a documentary and you think about, a guy you did a music festival with, you're watching Firefest, text him and say, are you watching, so keep in touch. So when you might need something later down the line, it's not as weird that you're coming out of the woodwork 10 years later. So I think just keep up your
Yes.
relationships. It's not hard.
That's perfect. That's such great advice. I think everybody has that in their particular area, right? We all get experience and we all meet some amazing people along the way. And so, in your words, we're all lucky in that we have these relationships that can help us. But it's a matter then of understanding how to be in contact with them and just to not let the relationships fall by the wayside. That, I think, is what you're saying, can make all the difference. But I have to say, most people are interested in reconnecting. I mean, this has happened to me several times too, right? I'll reach out to somebody maybe I haven't spoken to in a really long time and say, hey, I'm really, like, I've been thinking about you. I'd really love to reconnect, hear what you're up to. And so I think it's just really easy also to reestablish those relationships, even if they're not like front and center in your world at that moment. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't think every single thing has to be a let's have a coffee or a dinner. It can truly be like, hey, I heard you're working NBA finals. Like, hope you're okay out there. How's Denver? Just keeping in touch, and yeah, of course, personal connections when you can, but everyone likes to get checked on.
Oh my gosh, it's such a great point. Just like show that you care and be a friend to people. And that's really what it comes down to, isn't it? All right. So when we first met, you told me that you are an occupational extrovert. And you said that meant to you, and I'm going to let you describe this a lot better than what I'm saying now. But you told me that your job is like super extroverted. I actually, Kate, cannot think of another career that is more extroverted in nature than your career. But then you told me the greatest irony or contradictory that I've heard in a long time, which is that you're an introvert in an extroverted career. And so you coined this term occupational extrovert. So I've really teed this one up. I want to know what this means to you.
I used to have this on my on my website too. In my experience, I see events as almost two separate jobs. There's pre-planning and there's on-site. So pre-planning is actually still very introvert friendly. You can work in small groups alone, your head down in a spreadsheet. And then on-site execution is when you are vendors, clients, guests, you are on. And that's, I think, when you're still behind the scenes, though. Like, you are not networking and partying, you are making sure everyone else is good. So it's still kind of a back of house role. What I define as occupational extrovert is during that week or weeks where you are on site and you are on 10 to 16 hours a day, nonstop, you're
Wow.
basically like borrowing energy from your future self. You're like prepaying back your bank to fill up and just use all of your extroversion for that week, knowing that you'll be able to rest and recharge when you get home. So it's just kind of, it's not fake, it's just borrowing from yourself from the future, knowing you can power through.
I was really excited to have this conversation with you today, in addition to hearing about the bold moves you've made. but to also talk to somebody who is an introvert making bold moves. Because I'm making an assumption that maybe introverts can get a little shy about the idea of doing something bold. And I want to flip the script on that and say that bold moves are not just an extrovert's job. Everybody can make bold moves. And the way that you make bold moves is totally up to you, and you can do it your way. So let's dig into what it means to be an introvert making bold moves. What has worked well for you to honor your introverted nature while also having this highly social and demanding job?
You have such great questions. Some of it, I know everyone doesn't have the privilege of working remote, but I think that really helps. And it's more common, at least now. I actually started working remote full time in 2015 when I was working at Revolution. It's a Chicago based company. And so once a month or so, I'd get to see all my clients and my colleagues, and it was wonderful. I love being there and connecting with them. But then I love being able to come home and just do my work without, cubicle drive-bys and break room chatter, because that can like really drain me. And then I have no energy to actually do my work. So working remote, I think, is a huge thing if you can do that as an introvert. And then back to the on-site grind, I compartmentalize a lot. I'm very communicative with my friends and family that I'm going to be off the grid, and it's not personal, but I'm working for this amount of time and you will not hear from me. And then I put reminders in my calendar to help me remember people's birthdays, or I send cards before I leave to make me not totally guilty when I come to the surface that I have ignored everybody. So working remote and compartmentalizing works for me.
That's really helpful. You set a boundary that I'm out of pocket, but you also honor what sounds like an inner value, or like a value to you, about also maintaining connection. And so you figured out a really nice way to make both of those things kind of work while you're having to do your extroverted stuff. But you're like, I'm going to be busy for 10 to 16 hours a day. I'm not calling you at the end of the day. I need that for me time to re-energize. Is that right?
Absolutely.
I was going to also say, like, interaction with other people during your job on site can suck a lot of energy. I would call myself like an introvert. Wait, what is it called? An amnivert, I think, where you're half extroverted, half introverted. And I know that just like being out socially for even like 3 hours for me can really drain my energy and make me feel like I need a whole next day to relax. So how do you go about recouping your energy to do it all over again the next day?
I thought you'd never ask. It's my favorite topic. My recovery strategy is called rotting. The internet has coined this term for basically being mindless and being horizontal. And honestly, after events where I'm crazy for a week, I will come home and I will watch reality TV for an entire day, turn my phone off, and just do nothing. There's science behind it, truly, about how we're just doing too much. We're all multitasking, and there's stimulation. You're just, stuff's happening all the time. And in order to have your brain really reset and make room for creative thought, you need to just do nothing. So I do that for a day. And then the next day is like laundry, appointments that I have put off for a month, and errands and all that makes me feel like a human again. And then I'm back to being normal. So it's rest hard after work hard.
Yeah, recharge the batteries. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, that's great. We've talked about the need to always be relationship building. And so, again, I'm assuming that for an introvert, relationship building also can somewhat be taxing or intimidating. I don't know. And I might be talking all over the board about myths related to introverts. And I want you to dispel those if I'm doing that. What tips do you have for introverts about relationship building? Because I know, you know, and I hope that listeners know because I've been talking about this so much on this podcast and all the guests do too. Relationship building is basically one of the huge keys to making a bold move. And it's not like a one and done. It's an actual like thing that you have to continue to maintain and nurture. And every time you get to a new level, you're doing more relationship building because you need to know more about that next thing. So, what are some ways that introverts can feel really comfortable and confident about relationship building? What's worked for you?
I think it goes back to that constantly keeping in touch with folks, I think. And something I was even reading, what is the definition of an introvert? Because I've always just said that, but I was like, let me dig into this. And it seems like it's not that you don't like people, of course. It's that you prefer smaller groups and more like intimate conversations. So
Uh-huh.
I think that's something that really lends itself to true relationship building is that like I may not know every single guest on my 150 person event, but the six I'm working with, like I know everything about them. And I genuinely want to know what's going on. Like here we are working Rose Bowl on New Year's Eve and I want to know what people are doing back at home. I don't think that's something that's split between introverts and extroverts. It's if you can just genuinely care about others and
Yeah.
make those relationships, it'll work out.
Well, you're actually making me rethink this because maybe introverts are better at creating those deep relationships that are needed for making bold moves. So that's really interesting because I think extroverts can be really highly social and like wanting to like work the room, so to speak. And maybe they don't go deep enough into the relationship that's going to help you get to, kind of helping somebody else out and then they can help you. Maybe, keeping it too surface might not be meeting your goals that you have for your bold move after all. So that's interesting. But I think the key lesson here for everybody is really about like not just being surface, really truly going a little bit deeper with the
Yeah.
people that you are building relationships with to make sure that they're meaningful, to make sure that they understand what you're looking for and you can also support them. Because I think a key part in making bold moves is not just about, helping yourself. It's also about being able to have reciprocal relationships so that you eventually can also help people that help you. I wonder how that's played out for you, Kate, in your journey. Initially you were obviously trying to get more information about making this bold move for you and making the leap. But have you paid that back to other people? Have other people reached out to you about the same type of idea?
Yes, which I'm so glad because I'm like, I felt a need to pay it forward. Someone called me yesterday and is considering it. And I've had quite a few conversations because the event world is small and there's a lot of people considering it. And I think, one of the biggest drawbacks is when you go on your own is medical, which is, a problem in itself. But
Sure.
yeah, it's been nice to be able to be like, okay, here's where I wish I'd done this. I did this. Go ahead and do this, even if you're not, establish an LLC. It costs $100. Like, why not?
Yeah,
And just stuff I've learned. I'm so happy to pass it along because there's no use gatekeeping. It doesn't help anybody.
totally. We've talked a lot about some strengths that you've leveraged over your career to help you, take on this next chapter, which is your own event production business. But what about some weaknesses, Kate? Like, what are some weaknesses that you have had to overcome and maybe you've learned about because that you have that more introverted personality?
So many weaknesses. I mean, just being here today is very scary for me, but
Uh,
we have to challenge ourselves and grow. Public speaking makes me sweat. But I think what you were saying in the beginning is that this event industry is seen as a job for extroverts. You have to be charismatic, outgoing, all this stuff. So I have imposter syndrome all the time. I'm just like, okay, I should I be here? But something in this new role job that I'm in, moving into freelance, has made me more confident, weirdly enough, because every contract conversation that I have to sell myself. So, like, I have to verbalize my skills and what I'm good at like multiple times a year, which, think about like a regular job. You interview once and then maybe you do a self
Uh-huh.
review, but like I'm having to like, it's exposure therapy, like talk about myself being great, even though I'm not, necessarily the most confident person, but it just really helps you feel more confident and less of an imposter when people sign you,
Mhm.
because clearly you're doing something right if they value you based on what you said you can do.
I think one of the most important things that we can do in our bold moves is recognize our weaknesses. As you said, we all have so many of them, right? Can't be good at everything, unfortunately. But then being able to work through those in ways that we continue to get better and better and better. Is there anything, like, when you were practicing or when you were thinking about, like, how do I pitch myself to all of these different vendors or to all of these different potential pieces of business that I can win? What steps did you take to practice? Did you put in practice? Did you, like, write a elevator speech or anything like that?
That is why I started a website a couple years ago, because I felt like I couldn't articulate because I'm terrible at saying things off the cuff. Um, that I wanted to show what I can do, because a resume only says so much, but
Mm-hmm.
photos of events or taking you
Mm-hmm.
through an event or showing kind of the list of everything, what I can do, helped me have a visual, I guess, crutch in those conversations. And then also changing my mindset that there's no use in being dishonest about my capabilities. And I think I'm smart and can learn anything, but I don't know how to drive a forklift. So don't contract me for the operations job where I have to drive a
Right,
forklift, because right
right,
now I
right,
don't know how to. Maybe I'll learn, but there's no benefit in overselling yourself. You don't want to self-deprecate, but you want to just be honest, because it's not going to go well if you're in over your head.
What advice do you have for other introverts who are hesitant to make bold moves? Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that is a really important piece of this conversation just to get introverts over the hump, that, like, bold moves are for everyone? It doesn't matter your personality type. You can make bold moves regardless of whether you're shy or you're wanting to be on, stick to the perimeter more than be front and
Yeah.
center. So, any parting advice for the introverts out there?
I think just remembering that everything's temporary. Like, you just jump, just try it on. Like, you can change and make a different decision. There's no, what's really going to happen? You're not killing anybody. Like, nothing's permanent. Just try it out. And if you don't like it, do something else. So I think just jump.
Just jump. Kate, what do you know about being bold today that you wish you would have known earlier on?
I think it ties in to the temporary bit, but the best advice I've ever received is we make the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time. And then when we get new information, we make new decisions. So you're just always moving forward. And so you don't have regrets, you don't backtrack, you just keep moving forward when you get new information. And I think that's just how I operate now. Is I don't
Hmm.
know when the next paycheck is coming, but I'll figure it out because I'll get new information and then I'll make a new decision, and this lifestyle's worth it. Try it on, try it out, keep moving.
Oh, so good. So good, Kate. Okay. if if somebody wanted to get in touch with you for more of this amazing advice about how to be an introvert and make bold moves, Kate, or maybe they have an event that they want to hire you for, where can they find you? How can they get in touch?
Email's probably best, Kate at kigevents.com. I have an Instagram. It's really just for fun, but it's kig.events, or my website, kig.events. But reach out, ask me questions. How can I help you? Introverts unite.
I also think you should follow Kate because you're going to see all of the amazing events that she's producing, and you can live vicariously through her. What's coming up next for you, Kate? What event are you working on next?
Next will be Major League Soccer All-Star. So looking forward to that. That'll be coming up in July. And then who knows what's next? I have a conversation with someone tomorrow to see if there's a new contract, but this is the life. We'll see.
We're always just figuring it out. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for joining me on the Bold Moves How Did You Know podcast. And to everyone else out there, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.